Jaylen Brown is having an absolutely elite season in 2026. He's averaging just under 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. Easily the best statistical season of his career. And because of that production, he's firmly in the MVP conversation right now. And honestly, it's deserved. Now, to be clear, Jaylen Brown has been a really good player his entire career. Multiple All-Star appearances, a key piece of a championship run with the Boston Celtics, and he's averaged over 20 points per game for 7 straight seasons. So him putting up big numbers isn't shocking. But at the same time, averaging close to 30 points per game is a completely different level. For most of his career, Brown has been in that 23 to 24 points per game range, which is great. That's all-star production. But flirting with 30 points per game, that's MVP level production, top 5 player in the league type of numbers. And if I'm being honest, even as a Celtics fan, I've never really viewed Jaylen Brown as that level of player. But with the numbers he's putting up in 2026, it's getting harder and harder to argue against it. So today, let's take a look at why and how Jaylen Brown's production has taken such a big leap this season. Let's start with the obvious reason. There has been no Jason Tatum this season. Tatum unfortunately tore his Achilles during last year's playoffs, which meant that heading into this season, Jaylen Brown became the main guy in Boston. And that's something Brown has never really experienced before. For years, the Celtics offense has been built around the Tatum 1A, Brown 1B dynamic. But this year, it's Brown as the clear number 1 option. Because of that, he's seen a massive increase in opportunity and responsibility. One stat that really shows this is offensive load, which measures how much responsibility a player has in creating offense. Before this season, the highest offensive load Brown ever had was 46%. This year, he's over 58%. That's a huge jump. His usage rate has also skyrocketed. Usage rate measures the percentage of team plays used by a player while they're on the court. Brown's previous career high was 30.7%. This season, he's over 35%. So naturally, with more touches, more shots, and more responsibility, you would expect a player's scoring numbers to increase. But still, getting close to 30 points per game is extremely difficult. So let's take a deeper look at how Brown is actually scoring these points. The biggest part of Jaylen Brown's game, and something he's been great at his entire career, is attacking the rim. Even though he's never had the tightest handle, Brown makes up for it with strength, explosiveness, and physicality. He uses his body extremely well to power through defenders and finish inside. And that's been true since early in his career. Even when he was more limited as a shooter and ball handler, Brown was always finishing at the rim at a high level. This season, over 44% of his shots came from the paint and restricted area, and he's converting over 60% of those attempts. That's extremely efficient. His ability to consistently score inside forces defenses to collapse, which then opens up the rest of his game. But if you're averaging close to 30 points per game, you obviously need more than just rim finishing. So let's talk about his shooting. Jaylen Brown has always been a solid, but not elite, 3-point shooter. For reference, the league average from 3 is usually around 36%. Brown has hovered around 35% for most of his career, and this season he's sitting at about 34.8%. So honestly, not much has changed here. About 26% of his scoring comes from 3-point shots, which is pretty consistent with the type of player he's always been. He's never been a high-volume sniper from deep. 3-point shooting is just one piece of his offensive game, but not the centerpiece. So if his rim finishing and 3-point shooting are basically the same as previous seasons, then where is the huge jump in scoring coming from? The answer is his mid-range game. This season, the mid-range area has been Jaylen Brown's bread and butter. In fact, 27% of his shots are coming from mid-range, which is the highest percentage of any area on the floor for him. Now that part isn't surprising. Brown has always liked the mid-range. Because of his size and strength, he can bully smaller defenders in the post, and he's athletic enough to create separation against bigger defenders. But the difference this season is efficiency. Jaylen Brown is hitting 52% of his mid-range shots this year. That is ridiculously good. For context, the league average for mid-range is usually around 42%. So Brown is shooting 10% better than the league average from one of the hardest areas on the court. And that's what's making him so difficult to guard. Defenders already have to respect his ability to attack the rim, but when you combine that with a mid-range jumper that's falling over half the time, now you're dealing with a scorer that's extremely hard to contain. And that's the biggest reason why he's flirting with 30 points per game this season. There is no denying it. Jaylen Brown is playing at an elite level this season. If you only looked at the numbers from 2026, you could absolutely argue that he's one of the best players in the league. But personally, I think this might be a case of a very good player having an unusually great shooting season. Every great player has years where the shots just fall more often than usual, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Brown. He is a great two-way player, someone every team in the NBA would love to have. But if you look closely at his game, not much has actually changed. He's still scoring primarily at the rim and in the mid-range, just like he always has. The difference this season is simply efficiency. Now, I might be a little critical here, I will admit that, but I still think Brown leaves something to desire when it comes to ball handling, decision making, and using his left hand consistently. And those are things that usually separate good players from true elite superstars. So I'll leave you with this question. If Jaylen Brown ever left the Boston Celtics, would he be good enough to lead another franchise on a deep playoff run as the number one option? Let me know what you guys think.